What is up, fellow nerds, and welcome back to the Dapper Snapper Gaming channel, and welcome back to How Do I Want to Do This? This is our series where we take a look at all playable options available to players in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, then we rank them on a scale of 1 to 10 and either build them or fix them depending on how they rank. Now today we finish up our talks on the Divine Soul Sorcerer, the one that gets its power from the gods and did pretty well in our ranking. So how would we build one? Let's find that out today. But before we do that, make sure to leave a like on the video and subscribe if you haven't already. Also, make sure to share the video with your friends and make sure to click the bell so you're notified when new videos are uploaded. A great way to support this channel is, of course, by becoming a member down below. This and all of my other build guides and subclass fix guides are available there for all of my members. At the lowest tier, of course, you will get access to all of those guides as a way of saying thank you for supporting the channel and showing me that this is content that you actually like and is worth watching. It really helps me out. Of course, going up higher tiers helps me out even more. And of course, you get all of those benefits plus more as you get a little higher up. You get your videos 24 hours early, which is great as a silver member. And of course, you get a special shout out as well, which is amazing. So shout out to my silver members right there. And so yeah, thank you all for being members with me right now. And then finally, the gold tier, which is an ever evolving tier. There are some exciting things coming with that, but for now, it gives you access to a special part of my Discord server, and I am pumped for what is coming in the future for the gold members as well. But of course, for all of you watching the video today, thank you so much. Let's jump into what we have. So the Divine Soul Sorcerer did pretty well in our ranking, right? It basically got the highest that you could get without being one of them that gets an expanded spell list pretty much. And so honestly, it's still very respectable. This used to be one of, if not the best sorcerers out there. And so then, you know, Clockwork Soul and Aberrant Mind had to go and mess that up, but still very compelling option. And there are a lot of different ways that you can go about this. You know, there's obviously the Paladin route. There's obviously the Hexblade route. You can always make that work. Today, that's not what we're going to be doing. I'm still yet to do a Hexblade type of dip into one of these, but I don't know. I feel like that gets talked about so often that I don't know if I'm even going to do one, just because, you know, there's so many guides online on how to do that. But today I wanted to do something a little bit different. Are we going to have multi-classing? Yes. However, it is very light, and I think it's going to really add some effectiveness that we didn't have before, and it's going to be really easy to do and easy to understand. Again, still, we're going to have that guide up there for all the members, but without any further ado, let's jump right in. Of course, here are the rules for this series in case you were wondering. And so, yeah, we will jump in with our race. And we're going with a race that we haven't taken in a very long time. This is one of my favorites, honestly. I really like taking this option. There's a lot to love about it, and there's one feature in particular that I am really here for. And so we are going for the half orc. Yes, you can go with the new orc from the Monsters of the Multiverse if you want to go that route. But to me, I just like the classic half orc. I think it makes a little bit more sense with Divine Soul because a lot of this is that you're kind of torn between two worlds. And I think that half orc makes sense in that as well. So I think that there's a lot of ways to make this work in a role-playing perspective as well as on a mechanical perspective. So with this, what is the main feature we're looking for? The really important thing is going to be relentless endurance. This basically means that if we were to drop to 0 hit points, we are instead going to drop to 1. And there's going to be something we're going to go with a little bit later on in the build that may or may not put us in that position. And so I want to make sure that we are covering ourselves in a way that, whether it's the primary or secondary use of a feature like this, I still want to make sure that we're good and that we're not constantly having to rely on allies to get us, the probably healer, up all the time. So very important thing, and I think that that's going to help us to be a lot more effective. As for our stats, of course, we're using the modified standard array that you just saw on the screen, and we're going to be going in order here from top to bottom with charisma, followed by strength. We just need to make sure we have a 15 in strength, a 13 in wisdom, And then beyond that, Constitution, of course, is going to be next. Then Dexterity, which is kind of getting dumped, which is rough. And then Intelligence as our lowest. Our stats are a little all over the place this week, and it is going to really mess us up. But I think it's important to go in this order. You can go less on Strength if you want to. However, I don't think I would for this build, but it's an option if you want to do that. For our equipment, I would take the best armor that you can possibly take at this level. Now, are you going to have full plate armor at level 1? I highly doubt it, unless your DM is just the most generous person ever. I highly doubt it. However, that is the end goal, is to get up to full plate. So just eventually, we're going to get there whenever you can afford it after your escapades. Just make sure to pick that up when you can. For now, it's probably going to be medium armor of some kind, and you just grab whatever it is that you can according to your proficiencies. With this, of course, we're also going to need a holy symbol, which goes ahead and indicates that, of course, we are going to be starting not in Sorcerer, but in some other class that has to do with armor and worshiping a deity. And it's not Paladin, instead it is Cleric. We are starting in Cleric this week because I think it's just a little bit more effective when it comes to boosting our healing prowess. And what other subclass would boost our healing prowess than the Life Cleric? The Life Cleric, of course, is going to be one of the main healing subclasses in Dungeons and Dragons. We covered it a while back on the channel. I'll put that up in the icard above for you. But basically, it is the healer to end all healers. It is absolutely amazing at what it does, and just this one level dip is going to be plenty. You might be saying, well, isn't this redundant? You know, you already get access to the cleric spell list whenever you become a Divine Soul Sorcerer, so we don't really need that. Why are we doing that? The big thing to me is the fact that we get more access to more of the early spells on that cleric list. And honestly, that's really important. The cleric list starts off incredibly strong, and there are some that we are just going to want to be able to fit, and we may not have the slots for it. So I think that it is actually worth it. With this, we get spellcasting, of course, which we'll come back to. We also get bonus proficiency, which is going to give us proficiency in heavy armor. Again, this is how we are going to be able to go for full plate once we can afford it. And we also get Disciple of Life. This is going to add extra healing every time that we cast a healing spell. This is incredibly helpful. Yes, it's not that much, but still, every point counts, and we want to be the most effective healer on this build as possible. We're not really going for damage. We're not really going for much else. We want to be a healer, and this build is going to help us with that, so I want to lay that groundwork first of all. For our spells, of course, Guidance, Spare the Dying, Thaumaturgy, things like that, those are going to be the ones that I'm going to say to take on the cleric side, just because us having a low wisdom is not going to make a difference there. You don't want to take something like, I don't know, Toll the Dead here, just because it's going to rely on a saving throw, and our saving throw DC is not going to be that good because we're going to have a pretty low wisdom for most of our career. So I'm not really concerned about that. So take some spells that are good that don't require having a high wisdom here. The same theme is going to be present for first level spells on the cleric side, and so we get Bless and Cure Wounds for free, which is perfect. Bless is going to be our concentration spell for a long time, and even when we switch what could be our concentration spell, Bless is still going to be a very good option. So definitely something to keep in the back pocket all the time. We also can take something like Detect Magic or Protection from Evil and Good. Again, we're not going to have a good wisdom here, so I would not rely on things that do take our spellcasting modifier. You know, a Healing Word is a perfect example of this. We're not going to take that yet until we get over to Sorcerer, just because then that's going to use our charisma and heal just a little bit more. So that is personally where I'm at on that. Take stuff that's good that doesn't need a good wisdom score. So then level 2, we are going to be a sorcerer, and we are going to stay here for the other 19 levels. So we are now a sorcerer 1, which gets spellcasting, of course. We get divine magic, which normally would give us a free spell. And normally I would say take Bless. My secondary option would be Cure Wounds. We got both of those from being a life cleric. So really this is pick your favorite. I guess Bane is the next best. I mean, you're probably hardly ever going to use this spell, if at all. Bless is just better, but if you need it in your back pocket, it's here. So it's fine. We also get Favored by the Gods, which is a really good feature at allowing us to re-roll some things. Definitely will come in handy throughout your career. We also now get some spells here, and I would probably take either Firebolt or Toll the Dead, just something to have a way of dealing some damage. We're going to be focused mostly on support and healing and that kind of thing, but it's nice to have a little bit of damage just in case we need to pick something off. We also have things like Message and Prestidigitation if you have not taken something like that already. These are really nice options for you, but besides that, pick your favorites. Then for first level spells, Shield. Shield is always going to be my first option. Healing Word is now what I would take at this point, just to make sure that we are able to heal from a distance, which is really nice. And then Silvery Barbs and Command are also really good options from the Sorcerer and Cleric lists respectively. At Sorcerer 2, we are going to get Font of Magic, which gives us our sorcery points. We don't really have anything to spend on them just yet until we get a little bit further, but you can convert it to spell slots if you want to. I'd probably just hang on until we get to Sorcerer 3. At Sorcerer 3, we get Meta Magic, and so we get 2 options of our choice. Here, I would take a couple weird ones. I would actually take Extended Spell, and I would take Distant Spell. Extended Spell is going to double the duration of a spell, and the big reason for that we will talk about here in just a second. Distant Spell, of course, is going to double the range of a spell, and so this is for something like Healing Word. This means that we can now heal people up from even farther away than before, which is going to help us to be that much better. Extended Spell, of course, is going to come in when we take the Aid Spell. Aid is an amazing bring here because normally at an 8-hour duration, it would last during the day, but not during a long rest. With this, we can extend that spell to 16 hours, which means you go ahead and blow your highest level spell slot right before you go to bed, take your full long rest, and then when you wake up, you've got everything back and you still have 8 hours left on the Aid buff, which is great. This is a raised hit point maximum, which is huge, so definitely the way to go for that. Misty Step, Lesser Restoration, and maybe Spiritual Weapon are other options. Spiritual Weapon is a maybe just to give us some bonus action damage if you want it. Again, it's not concentration, so could be a thing. Definitely not my first choice on a build like this, but could be a nice backup option. At Sorcerer 4, we get our first ASI or feat. And again, I'm going to take a bit of a weird one. We've already expanded the amount of health people have to their maximum. So let's add some temporary HP on top of that with Inspiring Leader. This is one that I really don't take all that much, although it's really not a bad feat at all. It does give some temporary HP, which is really good. And of course, you are going to be one of the people who needs the aid and the Expiring Leader in order to be just a little bit bulkier if you have the right number of party members, of course. Then we have Sorcerer 5. We are going to get Magical Guidance, of course, which is always decent, right? I'm not a hater on Magical Guidance. We also then get 3rd level spells. Mass Healing Word is going to be my top pick, of course, by helping out to heal all of the people, which is really nice. Revivify is also a great pickup here, just to make sure that we can raise people from the dead if that is necessary. If you have a normal cleric that's devoted to this, maybe don't worry about it, but it's nice to have in the back pocket just in case. Also, Aura of Vitality is an okay option, but the most important spell that I want us to take on this build is Life Transference. Now, Life Transference is a bit of a debate in the community and how it works, especially with the Sorcerer. You're going to see camps that will say, yes, you can twin this, and you're going to see people who say, no, you cannot. First of all, let me know down in the comments below, can you twin Life Transference? I'm going to say no, based on what Jeremy Crawford has said in the past. It is my understanding that you cannot twin this spell just because technically 2 creatures are already being targeted by it, both the creature that you are healing and yourself. Life Transference is a spell that takes some health from you and then gives it to someone else. It's a lot of health, actually, both on the damage and the healing side, but it's a very effective use of your spell slot. This is what I meant by you might knock yourself out due to dealing damage to yourself, because this is going to do that. Now, aid and the temporary HP are going to be a huge help in making sure you have a bit of a buffer in this so you can be a really effective healer. But again, there will be times where you get hit or you miscalculate, you roll high on the damage to yourself, whatever it happens to be. This way you can stay up, which is really important. Yes, there is the spell Death Ward. If you want to do something similar to this, you can do that. However, I like having it as a racial option, and you can technically do both if you want to do both. I'm going to say just worry about Relentless Endurance, but if you want to go on that both ways, you definitely can do that. At Sorcerer 6, we get Empowered Healing, which is going to empower our healing, allowing us to not only add extra healing from what we had in Disciple of Life, but now we get to re-roll some of our healing if we rolled poorly, which is really, really good. We're working to just compound, making sure that we are as consistent as possible when it comes to healing up our allies, and this is absolutely doing that. At Sorcerer 7, we begin our trek of odd-numbered levels that actually do not give us any features but give us extra spells. We get 4th level spells here, and I'm going to probably take something like Banishment just to take it, whatever. Dimension Door, that's a must take for me, just because that is one of the best teleportation spells in the game. And finally, Polymorph. Polymorph is going to be a must take no matter what, and it's really good. It's really good, and it gives either extra HP to an ally or yourself, or you can put your enemies in a weird position, and definitely can be a really effective tool there. At Sorcerer 8, we're going to get our next ASI or feat, and I'm going to take a weird one that I normally, again, do not take. This build's kind of full of that. We're going to take the Actor feat, just because there aren't really any other great spells that just raise your charisma by 1. There aren't great ones that we don't need. You know, we already got Misty Step, so it's a little redundant to go Fate Touched. We don't really need Shadow Touched. So yeah, those are normally the best options. So this is what I'm gonna go with, is the Actor feat. Helps you to maybe pass yourself off as somebody else, that kind of thing. Could come up, but the main thing is that +1 to charisma. Sorcerer 9, again, we do not get any features here, but we get a ton of spells that I would definitely want to take. Greater Restoration, Mass Cure Wounds are huge ones. Honestly, they are really, really effective ways to get rid of some gnarly effects or just heal up a bunch of people if you need to. Scrying is also an interesting one for gathering information. Raise Dead, of course, raises dead. On the Sorcerer side, it's not as good, I don't think. Dominate Person and Hold Monster are fine. The main one, though, that I would consider taking is Summon Celestial. Summon Celestial is a really effective spell at dealing a bunch of damage, at keeping people around, which is really good. It's got multiple forms, and all of them really are good. It's just really, really awesome. And of course, you can heal it up, you can buff it up, you can do all of these things to it as well. And that makes this a really, really effective ally, or if nothing else, damage sponge for you and your allies, which is really good. At Sorcerer 10, we get another meta magic option, and I'm going to take Twinned Spell at this point. This means we can now twin Healing Words and other spells that do only focus on one creature. Polymorph, that's also another one that you can consider, but again, at least to me, Life Transference would not qualify for this, but maybe your table rules it a little differently. At Sorcerer 11, we get 6th level spells, and I'm probably just going to take things like Heal and Mass Suggestion. I'm not really a huge fan of a lot of the other ones, so those are my 2 favorites here. And of course, there are a lot of 5th level spells that we want, so this would shore up some room to take some others maybe. At Sorcerer 12, we get another ASI or feat, and I'm going to take Warcaster. Our constitution has been very low up to this point, and it still is, but at least now we have advantage on our concentration checks. So that will help us out quite a bit in ensuring that we do not drop our blesses or our summon celestials. At Sorcerer 13, we get no features, but we do get 7th level spells. And honestly, I would focus on shoring up the spells that we were supposed to have gotten already. There aren't a ton of 7th level spells that really get me excited on either of these lists, to be honest with you. They're fine, I think, but I think that having some of the older options and maybe upcasting them is really the way to use our 7th level spell slots. At Sorcerer 14, we get Angelic Form, which allows us to fly, which is great. There are no restrictions on us wearing armor while we fly, which is great, so definitely take advantage of that. Sorcerer 15, we get no features, but we do get 8th level spells. Holy Aura is an interesting one that could come in handy. To me, it's not worth an 8th level spell slot, but could be okay. Dominate Monster and Power Word Stun are also other great options here. At Sorcerer 16, we get another ASI feat, and I'm probably just gonna take the tough feat. I wanna make sure I have as much HP as possible, just to make sure that I'm not as easy a target to take down as possible. And then Sorcerer 17, we get another meta magic option here. Quickened is probably the best way to go, but again, you could go subtle, you could go any of the other staples. I'm going to say Quickened is probably the best way to go on that. And we get 9th level spells. Mass Heal, Power Word Heal, Mass Polymorph, and Wish. Can't go wrong with any of those 4. They're all absolutely insane, absolutely amazing options there. Depending on what you need, you may want to take Mass Heal or Power Word Heal. It just depends on the situation. At Sorcerer 18, we get Unearthly Recovery, which is nice. We get to gain back half our HP, which is good if we're getting a little low. So definitely very effective and keeps our spell slots around, so we don't necessarily have to use those on ourselves. And finally, Sorcerer 19, level 20, we get another ASI feat. I'm just going to bump Constitution up to a 14. So what do you think of the Divine Soul Sorcerer? This is a fun one. I think that it's a really, really cool build. It's a really different take on how to be a healer, but it does it really well. And so I'm really happy with this build. Definitely let me know what you think down below. For our honorable mentions, let's start off with other classes we could take, and I think that the Warlock is probably your top option here. You can either take the Celestial or the Hexblade. For different reasons, these are gonna be just your best options. Celestial for the healing side, Hexblade for the damage dealing side, so just pick your favorite on that. And then on top of that, the Watcher's Paladin also is a really good bring, especially with Hexblade. I think that that's a really effective way to build this. There are plenty of people who've done guides on that before, so that's why I went a different route. But yeah, Hexblade plus Watcher's Paladin plus this is really, really good. So definitely something to consider there. For other racial options, the main one that comes to my mind is going to be the Mark of Healing Halfling. I know that not everybody allows the Mark races at tables, so that's why I didn't include it. However, that would probably be my main choice. So if you can take it, probably take that. The Aasimar also makes a lot of sense thematically speaking, just because again, maybe you are the child of a deity or you're just close with one, and Aasimars normally will fit that bill. And finally, other feat options. We have things like Metamagic Adept in order to give us more options, in order to give us more of our sorcery points, which is good. Fey Touched, again, I thought it was a little redundant with how I had built this, but definitely a good option. And finally, Skill Expert is actually not a bad one here either, because we're so focused on healing things, we might fall behind a little bit in the skill race. And so I want to make sure that we're still really good at being the face of the party. And this can help us to do that. Plus, it can be a bonus to our charisma, which is really good. So that is all for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Next week, we are going to be talking about the Lunar Sorcerer, one of the newest additions to Dungeons & Dragons. Also, our draft analysis for the new UNPL Spring Fling goes up tomorrow, and I'm looking forward to bringing you that as well. Until next time, stay safe out there, stay healthy. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.